Hello. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Halftime with Bizzy. Happy New Year. We are officially in 2025. Pretty exciting stuff. I hope you guys had a great, happy, and safe holiday with your families and friends. Today, we are right back on track, and we got the first guest of the year, none other than Casey Foster, the one of the co-founders of Refrag. I'm sure many of you guys don't need to be told what Refrag is. It's a very, very popular platform. But in case you don't know, we're going to be talking lots about it today. Refrag is essentially a tool that helps you, the player, get better at Counter-Strike by figuring out where you're lacking and how to improve it. There's different game modes that you can practice, and you can test out, your reflexes and test out scenarios and stuff like that. And it really puts it into perspective on how hard it is to be a really good Counter-Strike player. Like when you're watching a major or something like that, and you're sitting there, you're like, oh, you should have did that. Oh, you should have done that. It's easy to do that. I've done it before. I'm guilty of it. I'm sure you guys watching have done that before too. We're all guilty of it. But Refrag is a very essential tool, and if you're a serious Counter-Strike player, I would highly recommend you go and check it out. Very thrilled to be entering year 2 of the podcast, and it is awesome to have Casey Foster as the first guest of 2025. I'm going to chill out, and I'm going to just roll right into the podcast, man. Much love to everybody. Make sure you're liking, commenting, subscribing. Follow us on Spotify. I've been seeing the numbers increasing on there too, so I appreciate you guys very much for the love on there too. We will catch you guys on the outro. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this, man. I appreciate it very much. And similar to every episode, I kind of like to talk about the guests and their beginnings in Counter-Strike. So would you be able to tell me how you got involved with the Counter-Strike franchise?
Yeah, totally. This goes back a long time. My Steam account is 21 years old, and I started playing for the first time CS in probably late 99, early 2000s. My childhood friend named Claude, his cousin actually had Counter-Strike like just on their computer. We went over there one time, and then I was like, oh, that's cool. And I think they were playing on a map called like DE Rats or something.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, super early, obviously, flashlights, the scopes had, the M4s had scopes on them. But yeah, we just went over there for like lunch one time, and he had it on his PC. And I didn't get super hooked in that moment, not until like I got my own PC later, but that was like my first exposure to the game. And funny enough, I actually still use Claude's Steam account. We like swapped Steam accounts like 5 years after that. And I still use his Steam account to this day. So shout out Claude. But yeah, he got me into CS, or he exposed me to CS, and then we just kind of dabbled around it for a little while after that. But he was definitely the first person to show me the game.
And that kind of just planted the seed. And then after it kind of got a grip, Counter-Strike just, I feel like when you start getting involved with it, it just takes full control.
Yeah, I didn't have consoles as a kid. My mom was like, no games. I never owned a console my whole life type deal.
Wow.
And my mom got me a PC to do homework, which we all know how that goes.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was when I first like probably started playing at home. But I actually played with Claude's dad's laptop. Like he used to come over to my house. We would lay down on the floor in my closet and put his laptop like in the closet and play in there, because again, we weren't allowed to play video games in the house, so we like tried to hide the laptop from my mom when Claude was over. And we like, I don't know if you're familiar with what pod bots are, but like way before 1.6 and 1.5 and 1.3 and 1.1, there was these bots that had like very simple like brain trees, and you would shoot these bots and they would run around and plant the bomb, and they were called pod bots. And we did that in a closet for like probably like 2 years.
Wow, you guys never got caught.
No. I think my mom knew, but she would not really catch us because Claude was there, or at least not make a big deal about it. But yeah, that was like the earliest, CS days before I had a PC.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask, like, what was it that kind of dragged you into Counter-Strike? Was that kind of like when it really started getting like, oh my God, I love this game?
I didn't really feel like I loved it until I started playing on the internet.
Okay.
I got a PC, this was probably like 1.3 days. I had like my own computer at the house and, dial up and shooting other people, not bots, in the game, I think was what really like made it stick for me. And I was like, oh, like I'm shooting somebody else on the internet who has the same intention of trying to kill me in the game, but I'm sometimes a little bit more successful than them. And yeah, got hung on the like improving and getting better at the game and analyzing what I did wrong and right type thing. I had that from like an early age, I think, like probably much earlier. Claude definitely didn't really have any interest in like getting a lot better. But that was like really what made it stick for me was like when I started playing on the internet, and then the kind of the community aspect of it started kind of coming into play, and that ultimately, kind of, yeah, hammered it that I was going to like be around the game for a little while.
Okay. When you look back at when you first started playing and you look at the current state of Counter-Strike, how has that been seeing the evolution so many different times? Like, it's got to be crazy.
Oh, dude, CS is so different. The community, the game, everything is so different. I mean, I don't know if IDEO, if Gooseman talked a lot about it when you had him on, but CS was this little mod for Half-Life. There was a handful of public servers that you could connect to in your area. Like you would still have 100 ping because you were on dial-up, but you know the the weapons in the game, the Deagle had a scope. You could jump and shoot with the M4s. Like, it was just a totally different game. There was like a little tiny server browser like on the home screen. Cool sounds popped up when you connected to the servers.
Yeah.
Um, Super different. One of the big thing that stands out is the game was like, it's kind of crazy. People won't know this, but the game was like infinitely less toxic
Oh, yeah.
back in the early days of CS because it was like mostly older people who were playing the game. The kids hadn't got into it yet, and obviously that happened like a couple years later. But um, I met like the first person on the internet in those early days of CS. His name's like Biz Marquis. It's kind of crazy. We literally just talked on Steam the other day. I literally met him in a pub server, shooting in the MP5 on Dust One, just like bopping people in the tunnels. And
Wow.
and I've still known this dude. We never really got like super close, but literally the first person I met in a pub server when I was like 13 years old. I'm still like, friends with on Steam, but super duper different. I mean, the nobody really would have predicted that the game would get to its like, stage that it's in now, like skins and
The whole esports
APIs,
scene.
the esports team. I mean, we like when I told people that I was like playing a game competitively, they were like, huh, and yeah, it just super duper evolved. I mean, it's super cool to see what's ultimately happened to CS over the years, and we just played it because we loved it, not because of the like money in the game or the notoriety you got as a pro player. Like, it was just
Just a
a bunch
passion.
of kids. Yeah, a bunch of kids that are super passionate about a game that just worked really well. And, in my eyes, it's the best video game ever made, and it being alive for 26 years is, a testament to that.
For sure. And I like how you said, like, you were talking about the Biz Marquee guy that you met on Dust 1. Like, that's what I've always admired about Counter-Strike. I got in kind of late. I was like late 2015. So I met people back in that era that I still talk to sometimes today. Like a guy I was just messaging the other day, Ben. I met him on Counter-Strike and we still talk. And it's like Counter-Strike is just so good for bringing people together and like forming friendships and stuff. It's a really cool thing.
I mean, I've known people through CS like since I was a little kid, and I use this story quite frequently. But my wife and I, we went to Europe a couple of years ago, and I literally just tweeted out on Twitter. I was just like, "Hey, I'm in Paris," and then I met up with like a couple of dudes that I knew from CS in
Wow.
France that were French players. People like on very games and stuff, and we just met up, and it was cool. And I was like, did the same thing when I was in England. I was like, "Hey, I'm in England, or London. If anybody's here, you know, like meet up." And it was people that I played Counter Strike with over the years that I just didn't really think about like when I was going there, and then we've like met up, and it was, you know, not many people have that same like interaction or possibility for interaction. Like if you're playing on a baseball team in your state and then you go somewhere else, you don't know like all these people and all these different time zones all over the world. It's really hard to develop that playing something locally. But yeah, the community side of CS is just awesome, and it's unmatched. I would say just not CS, but just online gaming in general is just unmatched in that aspect. So I love hearing that. I know people who have met their wives
Wow.
in CS. So everybody's got that person they met online that became a really good friend, and you guys kind of grew together, and love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. Never gets old, man. So you've had a lot of really cool jobs I saw on your LinkedIn page. Being a digital marketing strategist for Coca-Cola, being the director of product and content for Immortals Gaming Club, director of product for ESL, and most notably being the co-founder and head of product for Netcode Guides. I always find topics like this very interesting and very inspiring. How did you get this kind of entrepreneurial monkey on your back? Because that's a big profile. That's crazy.
Sure. Yeah. I am from a not so nice place. Um, that I kind of naturally became an entrepreneur from a young age. I kind of was forced into you know, thinking about how to make money selling things when I was a kid. And then into my early adult age. And when I say adult age, I didn't go to college, I barely graduated high school. And when I was like 18, 19, I was already kind of starting businesses of things to do make money. I was selling cars, I was detailing cars, I was, fixing motorcycles. I had a little computer repair company, kind
Okay.
of just from a young age, I was always thinking about ways to make money because I didn't have like the normal upbringing that a lot of people had and a lot of like resources and parents in the house that really, you know, pushed you to kind of do that stuff that like I didn't really have that opportunity or option. So I just naturally kind of got into that stuff. I learned a lot of online marketing stuff, building my first online training businesses in Counter-Strike in like 2008, and that helped me, work with Coca-Cola. I kind of worked on the League of Legends, actually, the Challenger Series,
Oh, okay.
deal, and yeah, just kind of naturally on my own learned a lot of these things and got into these, roles later on. Um, Definitely through working with companies like Coca-Cola and Immortals, I learned that I am a way better as an entrepreneur than I am like working for somebody. Um, Granted, I always had like a little bit of skin in the game where I was at, but yeah, definitely became an entrepreneur by, you know, not by choice. It's not for everybody, but obviously sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, and the only person you can blame when it's not working out is yourself, and not everybody can really like deal with that or make it through the lows when you're not doing too hot. But um, yeah, definitely worked at a couple fun places because of it.
Yeah, and it's important to be able to deal with the losses. Like you're going to start, especially being an entrepreneur, you're going to start projects and they will fail, but those failures are going to lead you to successes down the road. And I'm sure as an entrepreneur yourself, you've probably faced failures. I'm sure it's fair to assume. And look where it's landed you. You've got a crazy resume and you've got Refrag, which we're going to be talking about very shortly. So I'd say it worked out very, very well by the looks of
Yeah,
things.
I'll actually attribute a lot of that to CS. A lot of people that actually get into competing in CS, I don't think you really develop this until you're competing for money on the line or playing in a professional environment, but you learn to lose and you learn to like learn from the loss, and you really have to rewire the way that you think about loss, and you have to like think about it as a way that you like learn something, you gain something out of the loss. Obviously losing sucks. Like I hated losing more than I liked winning, but you actually learn a lot from doing anything competitive, I think. And the competitive thing I did as a kid was CS. I played a couple sports and stuff, but like definitely Counter-Strike was my competition. And um, you'll talk to a lot of the pro players today. If you ever get them on interviews, they'll talk about the ability to lose, but then to bounce right back is like the biggest thing that you gain from, not the biggest thing you gain from CS, but one of the big things you gain from CS or just competing in general. And I use the golf analogy, like professional golfers. I don't know if you're a golfer, but professional golfers have to literally hit a bad shot. And 20 seconds later, they need to be able to forget about that shot, figure out what they did wrong, and then hit the best shot of their life, the next shot right after that, like, immediately. And that's the same thing that happens in business. Like, you need to be able to, like, you failed, you need to fail forward fast, learn from it, and do the next thing better. And I think I got that mentality a lot from like failing in CS and then having some success and then being able to analyze what I did wrong to then do it right after that. But that's the life of an entrepreneur. Is you're gonna fail 32 times and win once, and
Yeah.
hopefully you learn from those 32 and you make more wins in the future. But yeah.
Yeah, very important not to, hold on to your losses in the past, because that's just going to drag you behind, and you're going to, it's going to be a big mental battle, and, you got to just keep pushing forward. It sucks. Sometimes you'll invest a bunch of money into something, it shits the bed and doesn't work for you. Got to keep fucking going. You can't stop.
For sure, for sure. That's everything in life too, but yeah.
Well, yeah, for sure. Now, amidst all of the entrepreneurship background that you have, of course, we are mainly here to talk about your awesome service that caters to the serious competitive players, Refrag. Tell me a bit about the company that you co-founded and what exactly inspired this venture of yours that began in 2018.
So, uh 2018 is 10 years later. It's kind of crazy, but I started
Oh,
Netcode Guides in 2008, and we started out making training videos first, and then at the end of Netcode Guides, we were already making like in-game training stuff. The technology was very amateur at the time, but my goal and my vision of like what I wanted CS players to be able to do to get better was literally made then. I wanted to basically show people what they needed to do, have them go do it, and then measure that performance. And I've literally been thinking about that since 2008. It wasn't possible then. Well, we were getting close to it, but I had that kind of vision as early as like 2008, and we mostly did it through videos and then some stuff in game. But um, Netcode Guides lasted about we sold the company like 2015 or so, and then I kind of did Netcode Guides again with a company called Boomio. Most people didn't know that I was a part of Boomio, but Boomio was like the first real big success of like in-game training in Counter-Strike. And you can go to YouTube and search a lot of these videos. We had it was in partnership with a really big company called WME IMG, which was also the owner of E-League. If anybody out there remembers that, but um, we were the first place starting to make these really advanced in-game training modes, and then a couple of my ideas and visions were deployed there. We started making the actual stuff in game, tracking the data, but we hadn't done anything with it yet. That company shut down a couple of years later, not even a couple of years later, about a year and a half later, due to some internal politics at the company. And then I kind of did something like it with Immortals a couple of years later, and yeah, still my vision of doing this thing literally, didn't come to fruition until I put the team together for Refrag, which actually my CTO was a part of Netcode Guides and a part of a previous project that I did in the Overwatch world, where we basically made another Overwatch league or Overwatch training platform called OW Kings. And then yeah, we got started on Refrag in 2008, starting to make like the bones to like my ultimate vision that I had from like a little kid.
okay.
um, and we put the team together at Refrag, started it. It was a private project for about 2 years. We sold basically these really advanced tools, literally only for the pro teams. It was a private tool that we sold to only tier 1 pro teams for probably 2 years, while we were starting to make the other stuff on the side. Nobody had really heard about it at that time other than the pro teams, and it kind of circled its way around because we had this really cool piece of tech that nobody had ever seen before,
Hmm.
which was basically a multiplayer demo viewer um, that happened in game. So we would take a demo, you could then watch the demo back in game, but the most invaluable part of it was you could play against that demo. So a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of the pro teams were playing against the demos of their opponents before they played against them, and they knew exactly
Wow.
how to react to it. Yeah, which was probably the most valuable thing that like pro teams were doing at that time, other than obviously analyzing their data and stuff like through platforms. But they could like, Team Liquid could go download the demo of Astralis and feel their strategy. It's very different just watching it in a
Wow.
demo, but they could feel it in game, and the timings and where the mollies landed and how long it took for them to come out when the mollies popped and where the flashes were going to pop. So the anti-stratting of teams got super high at that point. And that was probably like 2 years. And what was cool is the 2 out of the 3 teams that we actually sold it to, they won like everything for a little while, which was really cool to see that it actually worked. And um, at that same time, like I said, we were also building these tools on the side, which actually was the start of like our public launch of Refrag, which happened with ESL about 2 years later. So in 2020, we partnered with ESL to bring Refrag to the masses, and it was integrated into the ESEA client, if you're familiar with that is. And yeah, everybody in the Counter-Strike world had access to Refrag through that. And it was still not like what it is today. It was just one mod called Nader, one mod called Prefire, and then this other mod called Restrat. And it was part of the ESEA client. It's just a lot of people just didn't, use ESEA in the rest of the world. Very popular in North America, but not super popular in the rest of the world. And we ended up breaking that partnership 2 years after that, and then launched it to the public. Mostly what it is today. But that was kind of the early stage journey of kind of putting the team together, where the product came from, where the vision came from, and then actually getting Refrag out to everybody that just literally has a Steam account, not behind ESCA or anything. So
That's interesting, man. And to partner with ESL, I mean, that's arguably one of the largest platforms in the whole industry. So like that was probably a really good, foot in the door to help make Refrag what it is today. And now you guys are public, obviously, and everybody can use it. And you guys have a lot of users. I mean, your Discord server alone, I think, has like 32,000 or something when I was checking last. Like, it's pretty cool, man. Pretty cool.
yeah, no, ESL was a cool part of the journey. It was our first step into like letting the world, I mean, not the world, but like more than just our pro teams, like kind of touch Refrag. And I've known the guys at ESL for a while. I'm very friendly with the CEO of EFG now. So Faceit and ESL merged after they were bought by the Saudis. I'm very friendly with the CEO Craig, and I was like, hey, dude, I've made like the holy grail to like everything that every like CS player like needs. And like let's figure out a way to make this more appealing and bring it to the masses. And he was like, cool, let's do it. So that's kind of how that started.
Perfect, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And some of the partners that are a part of Refrag are very talented and very well known in the scene. You have Elige and Pimp, who are also part of the Refrag Academy. And, they're huge names in Counter Strike history. Very good opportunity to have, pro and ex pro players coming and being a part of the service. How exactly did you build a bridge out to these gentlemen and get them on board with Refrag? I'm sure you probably knew them within the scene already.
Yeah. So full transparency, Refrag, or sorry, Pimp and Elige or Jacob and John are actually co-owners of Refrag. They are not co-founders. We, built the business before them, but they joined the company when we launched it publicly. I wanted two people that are both, on the desk, that are current players, so I can pass all of my billion thoughts of how Counter-Strike players need to practice, by them. Obviously, I played professionally, a decade before that, but the current meta and like what people do, we needed people like them to kind of help with that stuff and develop the product. But yeah, they are both co-owners of the business. You mostly see them on our academy. You see them on, like YouTube, Twitter, stuff like that. But yeah, I got friendly with John. I'm a huge Team Liquid fan. I'm very good friends with Joka Steve at Team Liquid, and got to, kind of meet him there, years and years and years ago. And obviously, I'm a huge fan of Elige, his brand, him as a player, him as a person. He's just like the most solid dude kind of in the space. And same thing for Jacob, more on the European side, played with Astralis, like has, just really good people vibes. Got to know them over the years. And when we were kind of picking and choosing who we wanted to be a part of the Refrag team when we launched it, I wanted some of those attributes that they had. And it was super important to me that they liked the product and they used it. And both of them were huge advocates and they were already using Refrag. We have not worked or reached out to anybody that doesn't like eat, breathe, and sleep Refrag, even to this day. And John was already using it at Liquid, to watch demos and to practice his aim and stuff. And, Jacob had used it on stream and we watched him, just only good things to say. So it was important to us that it was like a really authentic partnership. But yeah, mostly knew them through the CS world. And I was like, hey, I see you like this. Here's what we're planning to do. Would you be able to do XYZ? And yeah, it was just like a match made in heaven with both of them. And turns out, yes, like all my, vision of them and my view as like a spectator and a fan of them turns out to be true as well. Working with them with Refrag after a couple of years, they're still the best dudes that you could ask for.
Yeah, and like, they're both extremely well known, obviously, very talented, have a super wide range of knowledge in the server about the game, everything like really cool to see both of them, Especially I got a favorite Elige here, NA, super cool. Love that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and them just being, huge Counter-Strike nerds. Like
Yeah.
everybody at Refrag, we are Counter-Strike nerds. We've all, between the 12 of us now, we probably have, I've got 20 plus thousand hours of the game. John's got 20, there's probably a couple 100,000 hours of Counter-Strike played between all of us, and they are no different. Just total Counter-Strike nerds that love the game, and it's been a huge part of their life, just like it has mine. And we put our brains together, we make really cool, effective, things for CS players.
Yeah, absolutely. So Refrag is obviously a service that is pay to use, and upon paying, your service allows people to practice various different modes such as Crossfire, Pre-Fire, and Defender, to name a few. When you guys are coming up with new game modes, what exactly goes into creating a new mode for users to play?
There's a little bit of lore to this, which I'll get to later. But originally, everything that we made with Refrag was only for the really serious competitive players.
Mm-hmm.
Tier 1 pro teams, ESEA advanced teams, ECL teams. It was purely focused on like the person who's got 15,000 hours of game and is competing for money on the line. And we made that we made that work really well. And then I was like, let's start making some stuff for the people who are like starting to get better. um, we started making things like pre-fire. We had the nader mode, which is our utility learning mode. Again, the earlier person who's trying to get better at CS, who has already googled how to get better at Counter-Strike, might know a couple lineups, knows how to counter strafe. Those are good tools for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were like, let's address the even newer players who aren't masters of counter strafing, who don't know how to pre-aim. So we started making things for them, and this is kind of where the lore comes in. But our first mod that approaches those very newer players, or much newer players, Jimmy, who is also a co-founder, this Finnish kid of Refrag, um, he made this mod, and he showed me a video of it, and I was like, "This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my entire life." And he took that as a challenge to make Crossfire, which
Oh,
eventually evolved into Crossfire and is our most used training mode pretty much to this day.
damn.
And I didn't see what he saw in it, and I didn't. Yeah, I didn't think it had a whole lot of legs, but I think he took that as a challenge and made it really, really, really good. And yeah, so that's how sometimes it happens. But a lot of the times when we're thinking about making modes, we already know like what people need to do to get better at CS,
Sure.
but how we vision it, like Defender, for example, you're depending on your level of Counter-Strike that you're playing, you might only be the other team might only be throwing smokes against you. They might only be throwing flashes, and defender mode kind of puts everything together. You need to shoot, you need to dodge flashes, you need to chunk mollies. Chunk mollies means stand in the molly and eat it, and then shoot the people while you're standing in the molly, and most people just run from them. But depending on your level of CS that you play, all of that happens at the same time in real time, and you need to
Yeah.
be able to basically get a kill and a half or two kills in that exact situation. So we started, making things like that. And generally, our process is: here's the problem, make something that kind of solves it, and then we build it, fine tune it, and then let all tiers of players play it, and then we find out, is it too hard? Do we need to tweak it? Do we need to use our smart mode, which automatically increases or decreases the difficulty of the mode for the player? But yeah, in general, we mostly know exactly what to make. And then later on in Refrag's life, we hired somebody named Camille, who spends a lot of time in our SDK. If you're familiar with what an SDK is, it's a software developer kit. We have a tool called Creator Studio, which is basically an SDK, and it allows you to make any scenario that you can think of.
Oh, wow.
So every mode on Refrag is actually made inside of this Creator Studio, and everybody has access to this. So a lot of our best modes were made by the community. They
Holy.
got in our they got in our tool, and they were like, "Oh my god, I can make a retake situation, but with a molly here and a flash." And they end up making a really cool training mode that we never thought of. Um, and that's actually how a lot of the like later modes like clutch and our clutch mode and our repeak mode actually came from Creator Studio, and just the community kind of tinkering around in our Creator Studio and making a cool training mode that never really crossed our mind. But yeah, specking them out, testing them, kind of getting an early proof of concept, and then trying it out with real players and seeing actually like did it make you better. And I will literally screen share it with people, and I'll watch them and be like, oh, okay, cool, they are learning this little thing, or they did this, or I'm like, oh, actually we need to make the mode do this so that it forces you to learn to reposition or something. But yeah, a lot of making an MVP, trying it with people, tweaking it, and then putting it out there is kind of the I would say highest level view of developing one of our modes.
So the creative process behind this all, like you guys take a lot of time and effort to really produce something that's, unique and works well and stuff. Like it's a huge thing for you guys by the sounds of
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. I mean, our whole mission is like make something that works. Not everybody learns the same, but make
Hmm.
something that works, make it fun, and measure it. Um, and we see our users get better really quickly. And it's a bad problem actually because they get good so quick that they kind of exit our platform.
Oh
But
no.
that's okay. We're happy. Like our ultimate goal was achieved. Like you got better at Counter Strike like really quickly, and you moved on. But um, yeah, like that's a huge value to us is we do this because we are Counter-Strike nerds. We want to help everybody have the best time when they're playing CS because we had such a good time playing the game ourselves. Like we all view this as a way to like give back to the world and the community. Obviously we are a business and we make a couple bucks from it, but like, you know, I literally play Refrag instead of Counter-Strike on Valve or Face It today because I have more fun playing on Refrag than I do like other things. And we
Wow.
hear that a lot from our users. They don't even play, real games anymore. They play, our warm-up modes or Defender or VPL with their friends because it's just more fun. But yeah,
Wow.
that's it.
So refrag has had such an effect on people that they're playing refrag rather than queuing up competitive or Premier or Face It or something like that.
Dude, have you played VPL?
I have not played that one though.
So we have a mode called VPL, which stands for Versus Playlist, and it's basically a bunch of pro strategies. And you and two buddies or three buddies, you go into the game or the server, and you play against these strategies, and you won't win. You will struggle to win unless you cheese it. But if you actually really try to hold the bomb site like you would in a real game, you will struggle to hold the bomb site, and it
Wow.
is super fun. And you have to communicate. You have to call, oh, I'm blind. I'm smoking this off. I'm flashing this off, and it's literally bots you're playing against, and it's just because the pro team strategies are so good. There's very little gaps. They're smoking all the right things. The flashes are popping at the exact time. You get to feel like you're playing against a pro team. And we do that for hours. That is actually way more fun to just do that over and over and over and over and over again than go sit on Mirage and wait 42 seconds for a teammate
Yeah.
to execute on the A bomb site. Like go do it. I guarantee you'll have fun.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to check it out because, like you just said, competitive like a map like Mirage or something, it's really just like a matter of time before you run into the same people doing the same strats, and it's kind of just like a copy paste every time you play the map. So something like that, maybe I'll try that on stream sometime. I'll have to hit up
Yeah.
Refrag for a subscription, and yeah, no, that sounds like a
Yeah,
challenge.
I'll give you a trial code. But yeah, definitely bring some buddies and play it. You will be surprised.
Yeah, for sure, I'll definitely check it out, man. So it sounds like it's been really good. The journey with Refrag, how has that been so far? Because you guys seen a lot of growth and it's become quite popular in the scene.
Yeah, um it's really cool to see the love that Refrag gets. This is like my first, I would say, maybe my second product. The first was outside of the gaming space that got a lot of love. This is my first product in the gaming space that got like tons of love, like so much love where all we see is good things about it. We do basically no marketing. Everybody tells their friends about it. If you search Refrag on Twitter or Reddit, it's only everybody from the community just saying, "Go use Refrag.
Yeah.
It did this for me. The Refrag coach did this for me. Boot camp, taught me Mirage or Train or whatever." And like, it is really cool to see the love that it gets. But what's even better about it is watching people get better. We get to see people who joined the platform, obviously this isn't like public information, but we can see people who joined the platform. They were 3,000, Valve Premier rating, and then 2 months later they're like 15,000,
Oh, wow.
and all that we solved for them was teaching you where bad guys are going to come from, how to counter strafe, how to pre-aim, how to control the weapons, like the very early basics of CS. But that stuff takes people 2 years to learn on their own.
Oh, easily.
Yeah. And in Refrag, you learn that super quick because it forces you to. You could watch videos on it. You can then go do it in game. And then there's a bunch of stats and cool stuff. Like, that's ultimately, to me, what is the best thing to see is that people are actually getting better. And that was their goal is, they went on Google, they found Refrag, they spent their own hard earned money on my product, and then they got something out of it. That's the coolest thing to see. And we're about to start like surfacing some of this data, like to show people like how much better basically everybody gets. And like that's our ultimate goal is to make you better, and have more fun and potentially meet some other people in the community, which happens in our Discord all the time. And, we helped foster that. Like it's a blessing to be able to say that this is my job, and I'm like super, appreciative that I get to do this every day, and I get to eat, breathe, and sleep getting better at CS. Like,
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this same kind of shit since I was 13. Like, there's probably nobody on this planet that has thought more about how people get better at Counter-Strike than me. And to finally like see it happening and people really feeling it and showing it the love, it's the coolest thing. I mean, it's probably second to like my son being born, but like
Hmm.
probably the coolest thing is to like this baby that I've made, me and my team, but like, I've been a part of seeing it do its thing. And yeah, it has been successful because of that and because it works. And like not everything that you go and try from a Counter-Strike improvement standpoint works.
Yeah.
But Refrag does. So
And ultimately, like from a business standpoint, like being the owner, like you had an idea for the product, you assembled a team and you guys created the product and it does work. And like that's got to be one of the best feelings in the world from like a business standpoint. Like you did it and it is working
yeah,
in real time.
I get a lot of random Twitter DMs, sometimes not so nice, sometimes very nice, and people are just like, "Hey, I never do this, but Refrag like has helped me a lot, and I struggled with XYZ and CS, and I signed up for Refrag, and it like fixed my, whatever counter strafing, or I died a lot in this position of the map, or I wasn't aware that I needed to be doing X," and I'm just like, "Thank you so much for telling me. That's why we do what we do." And yeah, it obviously we have all reaped the benefits of it, and we get to keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and like to see like in the community to see people talking about Refrag and how good it is and how it's improved their Counter Strike skills and stuff must be amazing. But to hear that one on one, like when someone DMs you, like that's got to hit like a certain place in the heart.
It does, yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
I wish it didn't cost money to host game servers for
Yeah.
you to use Refrag. And we have considered figuring out ways to let people do this, elsewhere or in other ways, but it's hard because game servers cost money. And
And a
obviously
lot of it.
we do make a profit, but yeah, we have servers to run. And like I wish everybody could have $7 a month to spend on their training and or getting better at CS, but that's not everybody. And
Mhm.
we're super aware of that. But um, yeah, again, super fortunate to be able to do what we do, and we love what we do, being able to provide, in our eyes, the best way to improve at CS and the best Counter Strike training platform.
And at the end of the day, too, yeah, like $7 is, I think, a fair price. Like, I think that's more than fair. Like, a lot of subscription services these days are not cheap, and a lot of things run on subscription services. To me, $7 is not a lot of money to throw on something that I love to play every single day. But on the other note, too, in your guys' Discord server, which will be linked down below, you guys are always giving out trial codes. So you're always giving the opportunity, if maybe someone is less fortunate and doesn't have the money for cool skins or doesn't have the money for something like this, but they're so passionate, like you're giving them the opportunity regardless, which I
Yeah,
think is
and
amazing.
$7 to you because you have a job and you're in a country that $7 is not. There are people significantly less fortunate all around the
Yes,
world, and
yes.
we are super aware of them, and we do like a little bit of like regional pricing and stuff. But at the end of the day, some person in South Africa, you know, $7 is a lot to them.
Yeah.
And there's no solve for that. Our servers prices actually get more expensive in these places like, South Africa. So some places it just doesn't make sense for us, or sorry, it's just not possible for that person to, pay if $7 and, before they have a job or any way to earn income. But,
Yeah. I
and in
just
my
meant
eyes,
from a
like,
general standpoint, seven
yeah, yeah,
bucks
yeah.
is fair. That's what I was trying to get at there.
Yeah. No, I totally understand your point of view. I'm just saying, like, we are aware that people are less fortunate in the world and they
Yes.
can't spend $7. But for the people that are, we are aware that it's a fair amount for what you get out of the service. So
100%. 100%. And I think it's very obvious to say that it's been a successful ride so far with Refrag. Not that I think it's going anywhere. I think it'll be around for a long time. What are the plans for Refrag for the future when it comes to new content such as game modes? Like, do you have any plans that you'd be willing to talk about, or is it kind of keep it behind closed doors?
no, I'll leak a little bit here. We've talked about the idea of like putting out our roadmap. It just hasn't happened yet, but like putting out what we're going to make. Um, we just launched a feature called Refrag Coach, which analyzes automatically your Face It and Valve games, and it parses your demos, extracts all the data. We run the data through our algorithm. Our algorithm then automatically tells you what to play on Refrag. We're taking this a couple steps further. We're going to automatically be generating playlists for you literally every day. Like, you literally click a button, it analyzes your past 10 games. It knows exactly what to tell you. Like,
Wow.
for example, if you suck at taking outside on Mirage, as a T, it will automatically generate you a playlist of situations on that exact spot from your exact demos that you died in, and allow you to replay them. And
Unreal.
right, and stuff like that, like, is it requires all of this technology that we've been building over the last like 2 years to be able to do. But yeah, part of that being able to do that is releasing this feature that we had called Restrat. So yes, that's the leak. Restrat is coming back, but the underlying technology on Restrat allows us to do that. Like, for example, you might die 2 out of 10 times taking hauls on Inferno, because you aren't pre-aiming the right spots, or you're overextending or showing your body to multiple places at the same time. We will literally take your demos, automatically recreate that exact situation, put you into Xfire, put you into Crossfire, put you into Defender, and all of that exact situation that you died in, and let you replay it over and over and over again until you like
Wow.
never make that mistake. That's actually coming much sooner than it sounds like. It's probably, maybe early next year. And then our ultimate real goal
It'll be
is to.
January when this is coming out, by the way, for anyone listening. So it'll
Okay.
be early
All right,
this
cool.
year as of this video coming out.
Yeah. And then the last piece is to really show you where you're improving. So right now you play Refrag and you feel that you get better. Obviously, you could track your matchmaking performance or face it elo or something, but we're actually going to start showing you all the metrics of you actually getting better. That's one of the hard things about CS, and I actually think it's actually one of the best things about CS, when trying to get good or go pro in the game, is you need to be able to do something that's really hard for an extended period of time without seeing any real results. Because when you're getting better at the game, you don't really know that you're getting better at the game, other than looking at your elo, which is still kind of subjective. Like, in competitive CS, it's a very different ball game than going and playing like a pug on matchmaking or face it. But yeah, exposing you like, okay, you have actually gotten better at this, and here's the data to prove it, and here is actually where you need to improve. And Refrag Coach will automatically tell you like how to improve those things, and then tell you the average user does this thing for 12 minutes and gets 6% better or something. Like,
Okay.
these are, yeah, we're working on this right now to really like just hone in on what you need to do to get better, and show you that you're getting better. And like, I think the things where you're replaying your own scenarios, I think people are going to go nuts about that,
For sure.
uh, because they're going to feel that moment. They're going to be like, oh, that's right, like, I did this like 2 weeks ago and this guy peeked me from here, and I need to, position better to like not let that happen. And we're going to let you like do that like automatically. And yeah, that's a early leak to the next feature that's coming out, but we're super excited to that. That was all part of Refrag Coach, which, like I said, just came out. But this is version 2 or 3 of it. So
It's amazing to me that you guys already have so much established, like all the different modes and stuff like that, and how to make people, like all the strategies to make people better Counter-Strike players, but you guys still, like stuff like this, you still figure out a way to do it again. Like it's crazy to me.
Oh, dude, we've got probably 5 years of like training features. I think we're gonna hit a I mean, yeah, maybe we don't hit a plateau, but I think it's gonna be hard to really make many more like game-breaking, breakthrough features to actually like help people get better. We are gonna step probably outside of the training space a little bit, hint, hint. But that's all I can say about that. But yeah, what people can do to get better at CS. You know, I've been playing since I was 13, and I'm still getting better. Like,
You'll never
I
be the best you can be. You're
you
always
you
gonna
get
learn.
simple plays Counter Strike still to get better to this day. The best player in the world by miles still plays CS and gets better. His getting better every day is 0.001%, whereas you're playing CS and getting better every day is 1%.
Hmm.
Um, but there's always something to learn. There's always something to get better at, and with that, it allows us to keep just ideating and building modes or features to help people get better. Like it's just forever.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's what I think is so amazing about Counter-Strike is, like for instance, Train just came back, not long ago. Train is so different now, so many different levels on the map, like height-wise. There's so many different angles. You got to relearn smokes and flashes and all types of shit. It's like stuff like this, it makes Counter-Strike fresh again, and it makes people think again, and you got to figure out new strats and, well, okay, I shouldn't peek here, and like it's just amazing, dude. The game always just keeps on giving back.
That right there, what you just said is like what I did in CS for like so long. Is the game is the same.
Hmm.
Map control in Counter Strike never changes. You give or take. You spend some money or utility to take a spot, and then you give up another, and then the other team then takes that spot, and like
Yeah.
that concept will never change. You can go watch my videos from like early Counter Strike days, like 2006, 7, 8. It still applies to CS today. The only difference is the maps, and exactly what you said. It just changes it up. And when new maps enter the map pool, sorry, granted, Train will need some changes to be played in a competitive
Oh
environment,
yeah.
but
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, but like, yeah, you all you have to do is change the maps. Everything else can stay the same, and CS still feels fresh. Every round, at least in a competitive environment, is a little different. Somebody's going to penalize you for making a mistake here or there, but it still stays fresh. And there's a reason why CS has had very few changes over the last 25 years and is still, you know, dwarfs the competitive ecosystem or just ecosystem of every other FPS title, to this day. And it's because of that. It's the most simple, game in the world, but it's got the highest skill ceiling. And then, a new map comes in, and then everybody is on the same playing field,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
that happens, and that's just the beauty of CS, man. That's
Yeah,
why we're all
without a
here.
doubt. For sure. It definitely goes without saying, but Counter Strike's competitive scene is indeed heavily competitive, and I feel like you're seeing newer pros, coming over to tier one a lot more frequently now. Like there's a lot of, new rising talent and stuff like that. If there's anyone that's watching this that maybe wants to travel down that kind of path and maybe one day be, a pro, what kind of advice would you give them, like to try and achieve that goal?
Yeah, that's very different now than when I played, but if you're trying to go pro in CS, you need to be playing in, ESEA League, or actually it's not on Face It now, but you need to be joining ESEA League, getting in lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots, and I can't say that, but lots of reps in a competitive environment. And some people will hate me when I say this, but don't pug. If you actually want to be good at competitive team CS and try and go pro, the less pugs you play, like when you're starting to go pro, the better you're going to build a lot of these bad habits. And it's hard to get in reps, obviously, without playing pugs. I get it. I have 10,000 pugs myself, but yeah, joining ESEA League, um, joining some of the academy teams. This is basically where, Donk came from. A lot of the pros that just magically in people's eyes, they think they came out of nowhere, but they didn't. They were on academy teams getting in reps, but they just weren't on a pro team that was ranked on HLTV. And you get on these academy teams and you play a lot of Team CS, and you find 2 or 3 other people that are in the same like realm of their life and their interest in like developing as a CS player. It's hard, but you have to find them. You need a core 2 or 3 people that like don't can sorry uh, don't have to make money yet. So meaning
Hmm.
you're young and you don't have to have a job, and you can grind CS, and they have the same aspirations of getting better and working as a team and not developing really bad pug habits. Um, and you know find 2 or 3 other players and you replace them as people get worse or fall out of the scene or don't keep up with your guys' skill progression. um, and yeah, you work your way up to the ESEA leagues, and you'll get into what's called ESEA Advanced, and then Advanced feeds into ECL, and then ECL feeds into Pro League. And generally at the same time, like if you're making it that far, you're gonna have had some success and a little motivation and a couple, maybe like you might earn a couple bucks in some tournaments or from
Hmm.
some small sponsors to kind of keep you afloat. But um, yeah, it's a long, hard grind, and the level of competition today is significantly higher than it was when I played. So a bunch of us were working jobs, and I had a little small business, and I was still playing Pro CS. Like
Wow.
that's just not possible nowadays.
No.
You have to have the ability to play CS for 8 hours a day and not play, but be around CS for 8 hours a day and take it like a job and watching demos and practicing and you know grinding with your team and getting in lots of reps playing cups. But yeah, that's pretty much the path to pro right now, and you know it is deep. It is really deep right now, and um, there's a bunch of these Eastern European kids that just want it more
Yeah.
than you do, and they're willing to put in more work. And yeah, they're really hard to, you see Donk or Ultimate, or some of these young kids that are just unbelievable at the game, and they're 16
Monacy.
years old, Monacy, and they have the grit and the grind and the determination to do it. And I, I hate to say this, but I don't think a lot of the North American younger generation right now has that. And we will continue, we as in, our region will continue to fall behind because they just don't have the same level of like, I'm going to get shit on for 10,000 hours and come back just as hard the next time. They just don't have it in them. I haven't seen a lot of players in the region that have that. And it's unfortunate, but it's just kind of the way that it is. Or like the South American teams that aren't even sponsored, and they're beating tier 1 teams in the RMRs. Like they're just built different, and
Yeah.
that's your competition. So I'm not saying this to scare anybody away. I'm just saying this that the level of competition is really deep right now, and um, it's a grind, but it's beautiful. It's one of the best things I ever did. Like competing, the feeling that you get when you win, and the gut wrenching feeling you get when you lose, or that you
Yeah.
felt that you should have won and you lose money and there's something on the line. Like that is one of the best experiences I ever had, and I hope and I wish everybody can do it, or at least feel that same thing in like traditional sports, like soccer, baseball, football, whatever.
Hmm.
But that is a really character building thing to
Oh
do,
yeah.
and it actually translates into other things you will do in the rest of your life. And it's you don't think about it now, but it does. But sorry for the long-winded answer of how to
No,
go
you're
pro,
good. You're
and the
good.
yeah, and the deeper psychological part of it, in relation to regions. But yeah, that's it kind of in a nutshell.
And I think that it's also important, very important too. And this relates to anything you do in life, especially with entrepreneurship. You got to do something because you love it. If you do something because you want to get rich or you want to get a lot of money and you want to be super successful financially, you're doing it for the wrong reason. If you have a passion, like if there's a pro player or an aspiring pro player, I should say, that's listening to this, and you want to be a pro player because you love Counter Strike, like well, you did Refrag because you love Counter Strike. You've been playing Counter Strike since you were 13. You've been thinking of ways to be better at Counter Strike since you were 13. You say you still think of it now, and it's reasons like that why you should chase that kind of avenue and go down that path and do something that you want to do because you truly love it. eat, sleep, shit, breathe it, everything.
100%. And I'll use the example. We played in a time when it was just called competitive gaming. The prize for like my first tournament was like a mouse pad, and we were fucking stoked. Oh, we all won mouse pads, and obviously like it changed, and it grew over time. But anything in life, you've got to, like, if you really want to do that thing, you're gonna do it because you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I hate to slam these people, but a lot of these competitive players, I mean, when I say competitive, I mean people that are playing CS competitively, and then Valorant came out and they all saw dollar signs because it
Oh
was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
easy free money to go get. Those people were never going to be successful in CS anyway. Maybe they had a little success in Valorant, because I won't get into that, but they weren't going to be successful in CS because they weren't in it for the right reasons. And there is a caveat to that. Not everybody can do this thing, competing in CS for free forever. There comes a time when you have to start making money, and it might be worth the risk for you to grind out CS for another couple of years and see if you can make some money at the end of your career or before you have to start making money. Maybe they're 20, it's crazy to say, but maybe they're 23 years old or 22 years old, and their parents are like, hey, you have to start making money, and you've got to do something for it. That for me was much younger. I had to make money while playing CS, but um, again, at a different time when the competition was lower. But yeah, you need to be doing it because you love it, and you don't even think twice about doing it,
Yeah.
and it's just all that and it's second nature, and it's your fucking passion, and you eat, breathe, and sleep the thing. If that's you, 100% do it.
Yeah, for sure. And I've seen people in certain industries where they're doing something for the money, and it's like you can kind of see it. It just leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth. Like, if you're passionate about something, do it because you're passionate. Don't ever be chasing the almighty dollar. That's the wrong way to go about it. Wrong
And
way.
there's certain things in life that you do where you do need to do that. If you're starting a business, that's your pure goal is to make profit, then that's what you do and you chase the money. But when it comes to something like this, you will burn out if you're only doing it for the money.
Yeah.
You will fall short, and you will feel some kind of way. But to really have a good shot at going pro, you have to be on the other side. You have to be doing it because you love it. And Kobe Bryant, has talked about this in lots of his podcasts. He didn't care. Like, obviously the money was a bonus to him, but he was in the gym hours before everybody else getting better because he was obsessed with honing his craft. And that's just what you have to do, especially nowadays, to compete with these other players that are just obsessed with honing their craft. I mean, I'll use Elysian as an example. This guy's a total nerd. Um, Analyzes resolutions, analyzes mouse pads, mice, keyboards,
Wow.
monitors, other players' tendencies, map tendencies, gun. I mean, he was the one that like kind of found some of the metas in the game. Like when the Krieg popped up, that was elite. She was like, oh, statistically, this gun is better than all the other guns. Why are we not using this? He started using it, and then boom, 3 months later, everybody's using it. Same thing with like CZ. These kind of things happen where people are discovering like, you know metas in the game because they're obsessed with it. And
Just picking
you
little
have to be
details apart.
you got to be obsessed with honing your craft. And if that's you, man, do it. Like, if I ever see those players and I watch them, I do a lot of I watch a lot of noobs play CS, and I'm like, oh, hey, like when I say noob, I mean somebody like coming into like the competitive world, and I'll
Hmm.
every now and then be like, oh, you've got it. Like, go get good at CS. You've got it, dude. And very rarely does that happen, but it does. And if they're obsessed with honing their craft, then they have all the pieces to the puzzle to do it.
For sure. Well, dude, that was my last question for you. I appreciate you taking the time to do this week's episode, man. An absolute pleasure, and I want to congratulate you on everything you've achieved with Refrag this far. And I hope that you have a bright road ahead of you still. I have the last part of my show. People have called me the Sean Evans before. I like to let the guests run the outro. So if there's something we haven't covered that you'd like to, if you want to shout anyone out or promote anything, whatever it is, the floor is yours. You can run the outro.
Well, thanks for everybody watching and listening to me blabber about CS. But yeah, it's been my life. I love it. So if you've made it this far, congratulations. Hopefully you aren't tired of my voice. But Yeah, no real shout outs. Just, this was cool. Thanks for having me. I love to talk about CS. I do this kind of randomly in Discords. Like I'll join, Wilson CS's Discord to talk about Counter Strike with random people on the internet for hours on end. So happy to do that. Um, as far as shouting anybody out, I'd like to see a couple more people from this space, get on. If you are a caster or a broadcaster or a current pro player, I might even be able to connect you to a couple people that would, join. But,
That'd be
more people need
great.
to talk about this kind of stuff. And yeah, some of the other podcasts that kind of exist in the space are more about the industry and other things. This was cool to have like a more personal touch. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing, and
Thank
happy
you.
to share this around when it's done.
There you guys have it. Thank you very much, everybody, for tapping in and checking out today's podcast with Casey Foster, one of the co-founders of Refrag. If you guys like today's podcast, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We've amassed 300 subscribers on YouTube in the 8 months that we started this. I believe it was April or May of last year, 2024, when we started this. And I'm very, very happy that we have achieved what we've achieved. And I owe much of it to you guys, because without the awesome people watching the show, there would be no show. Nobody would know about it. So it's a mega thank you to you guys that watch this and support the podcast. And we have the merch coming. It's coming. I promise you right now. We've been working on it behind the scenes. It's on the way. But for now, we're going to blue ball you guys, and you're going to have to just wait and pay attention on our social medias. Much love. Have a great weekend. Until next time, y'all.